I have to admit, folks, I am sleepy today. I'm tired. Getting back into a routine is not that easy. Kids are all discombobulated. Nobody's going where they're supposed to be. Everything's all out of whack. And so we're going to will our way through this bad boy, but we're going to find some damn fantasy nuggets. You could bet your butt on that. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Besbris at Dan Besbris on the Twitters. DANBESBRIS, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky, Old Man Squad Fantasy over on Instagram. Please take a moment to like, rate, and subscribe as we settle in for the show. Subscribing, obviously, the biggest of those three things. Here's the stuff we're going to talk about on today's program. This is the sort of quick recap of Wednesday night. Precious Achiuwa making a little bit of noise with Cat out. Kelly Oubre continues to be a solid replacement for Joel Embiid, as does Gershon Yabusele. Cole Anthony continuing to rumble along at a decent clip. We're watch listing Wendell Carter Jr. Daniel Gafford, we talked about that a lot when Dereck Lively's down. Buddy Hield, we've talked about him already a little bit as well. Nikola Jovic has really starting to come into his own a little bit. And then Max Christie deserves a little more love as well. And those are the big stories coming out of an action-packed and really, frankly, pretty fun and entertaining Wednesday night of basketball. Before we get to that, I want to remind you guys that this show, as all of our shows, are brought to you by our buddies at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. They've got touchdowns, three-pointers, hat tricks, so they cover you on every game, every play, and every win. And hopefully your bet will cover as well. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football to the NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFCs, BetOnline remains the number one sports betting source for the new year. BetOnline, the game starts here. Let's pivot over to yesterday's results. This is the Basketball Monster box score page. That's the one we operate off of because it's very clean and efficient. And let's move our way through at a nice clip because we had a pretty good card yesterday. And I don't want these podcasts to be 45 minutes long. That's it's too long for me, and it's too long for you guys to have to listen to me as well. Knicks beat the Sixers 125-119. No Cat in this game. Precious Achiuwa played 30 minutes off the bench. Jericho Sims got the start, but we know Jericho Sims has no fantasy game whatsoever. Achiuwa has a little bit of fantasy game. Not none, a little bit. 10-6, a steal, 3 blocks. That's enough to get the job done. If Cat misses a game, another game, you could stream Precious. I wouldn't overextend myself on it. Meanwhile, this was an overtime game, by the way. Josh Hart played 49 minutes. Triple-double. My Lord, it feels like this team is a ticking time bomb. Over on the Sixers side, no Embiid. I figured a bunch of guys would be back for this game because it seemed like the Sixers were sort of biding their time to make a run at one of the two games on their back-to-back, but they biffed them both. Paul George looked more like Paul George. That, of course, is more predictable when Embiid is out. Maxey looks like Tyrese Maxey. Yabusele had 9, 5, and 6, which is fine. Not great. Normally, you'd expect him to sort of tumble into a steal or a block in 38 minutes. So I'm good with starting him as long as Embiid and Andre Drummond are out. And then Kelly Oubre is a guy you're starting when kind of any of the three main dudes are out. But obviously with Embiid, that's kind of the favorite of the bunch because it just redistributes all the usage. It's sort of like a socialist fantasy outlook, the redistribution of usage when Joel Embiid is out. So Kelly Oubre, keep him rocking. Yabusele, keep him rocking. Those are the two stories from that ball game. Boston is in a weird little mid-season funk, and every team will go through it. They got off to such a hot start, and it seemed like they were just going to sort of rumble away with at least second place in the Eastern Conference, and they still have a pretty good cushion there at 28-12, but they have slowed a little of late. They'll be fine. Derek White is hitting a little bit of a mid-season wall. Porzingis has kind of been the best Celtic lately. Tatum's hitting a little bit of a wall. You're not changing your valuations on these guys. Peyton Pritchard is a hold. Al Horford is a spot play. Everybody else is a go. But Derek White is a buy low. We talked about him on, well, actually a buy low show. As logical, I suppose. Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with that one. If you can get Dereck White for like a top 40 kind of guy right now, you definitely do it. On the Toronto side, no Emmanuel quickly, so you thought maybe there'd be a little bit of wiggle room for a Grady Dick or an Ochai Agbaji. Low end. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I'm not starting Davion Mitchell either. Pirtle, Barnes, RJ Barrett gets a big bump when someone's out. You can see by the popcorn numbers here, but of course, RJ is going to blow you up in something else. So punt play, same stuff. Let's keep moving. That game doesn't require much of our attention. Memphis took care of San Antonio, 129-115. John Morant had a solid ball game, and when he shoots over 50%, the Grizzlies are very hard to stop. Desmond Bane, fine. JJJ, a rare, quieter game, although he was sort of shooting over his head for the first 2 months this year. We're more concerned with the other guys. Luke Kennard played 30 minutes here. If he can get 30 minutes, he's a start, but knowing when he's going to get 30 minutes is damn near impossible. So I would say the next guy on the board is Santi Aldama. And we talked a little bit about Santi on, I think it was yesterday's show, actually, how he's been sort of cold coming back, and it's almost like a little bit of a buy low. We knew he was going to not ride the hot wave he was on all year, but he also wasn't going to be as bad as he had been. So the question was, which direction does he go? And back up is the answer here. So make sure that he didn't get dropped. I don't know how he's pulling it off, but it does seem like Aldama has taken a little bit of a step forward. And the fact that we were all in on him during the second half last year feels like maybe just a little bit too early. And then Zach Edey, that's a change here for Memphis. I'm going to adjust him down. He was a guy that I was trying to hold as long as he was getting in the 20s in minutes. It felt like he could kind of be that second or like not a bad second center on your fantasy team or a very good third center. But the minutes are going the wrong way. Jay Huff is taking some playing time. Brandon Clark is taking some playing time. His role just is not as, I don't want to say guaranteed, because I don't think any of us ever really thought it was a guaranteed role. It just seemed like one that they wanted to push him into. Yeah, there was a Victor Wembanyama situation on the other side here, so that wasn't maybe the world's greatest matchup for Edey. But the mere fact that his matchup can be so dependent on what else is going on makes me think he probably profiles a little bit more as a schedule play. No real stories on the Spurs side. Stephon Castle's been good his last 2 ball games after being bad for like the 10 before that. So average them all together, guys. And then Jeremy Sohan is out for, whatever it is, another game or 2 or more. So I wouldn't dig too deep. I'm not going to play Castle beyond a schedule play. So Castle's a schedule play. Julian Champagny is a schedule play when either Sohan or Vassell is out. Keldon Johnson, he's scoring better lately, but there's like nothing else to his fantasy game. So don't overcomplicate things. Let's keep moving. We want to save time to talk about the teams that require it. Atlanta, this was an absolute dumpster fire of a lineup, and they won. Clint Capella, Dyson Daniels, and Onyeka Okongwu were basically the only rotation guys that were in this ball game. You could argue Bogdan Bogdanovic, but he's just not healthy. He's not healthy. We've been talking about it for weeks, and I called him a drop weeks ago because I don't think we know how long it's going to take, if at all, for him to actually look like himself. Keaton Wallace, 27, 6, and 4 steals. Colossal game. Okongwu, 14, 13, and 7. Clint Capella, double-double. Dyson Daniels at 18, 8, and 3 with 4 defensive stats. Vit Krejci had 11 and 6. Thank you, Chicago, for playing no defense against the zombie Atlanta Hawks. I expect most of the Hawks to be back for their next one, though, so I wouldn't really do too much with this ball game other than to kind of file it. Put that in the fantasy Rolodex right now. We'll call this information back out if Atlanta ever runs into another spot where they sit their entire roster. Ayo Dosunmu came back for the Bulls. He played 25 minutes. That's a pretty good return game. No Lonzo on the back-to-back, so we'll see how that all meshes here in the next ball game for Chicago. Dosunmu is one of my favorite active stash types. I think his minutes probably do trend up towards 30, but his role isn't big enough unless someone gets out of the way, and that's going to have to either be Kobe White or Zach LaVine. Those are the preferred ones. Vooch being traded would also help because Jalen Smith wouldn't do as much as Vooch does offensively if that sort of slide up happens. But right now, for Dosunmu, he's going to be kind of a low-end guy. Even once he gets ramped up, he's a low-end guy because he doesn't take as many shots as these other dudes. And same story for Lonzo Ball, who I think is also an ad in Roto. Dosunmu, you can make an argument he's actually better for head-to-head right now. But either way, like, Roto, you could probably play ball when he's in, and you just take the zeros when he's not because it's a games cap. For Dosunmu, I don't know that I'd have the stones to play him in Roto unless he's an injury play. There you go. Ayo's an injury play or a trade play or a shutdown play or whatever. But in head-to-head, you can kind of get away with that because you get something while you wait on something more, potentially. It's hard to do a 0 while you wait on something more. But if you're getting like filler level, and someone's like, oh, hey, all right, Ayo Dosunmu, here's your deal. I'll give you this Ayo that's going to be like a top 140 play. But if you hold on to him for 3 weeks, he might turn into a mid-rounder. That's you're like, all right, I guess I could figure out a way to fit that into my lineup. Orlando is offense deficient right now. Cole Anthony's still decent enough, 11-9. No defensive stats, but I'm going to still play Cole until other people come back. Paolo Banchero, yeah, I mean, there are going to be some holes in it, but like the usage is so high for him right now that you kind of have no choice. And then let's keep one eye on Wendell Carter Jr. I really don't like his fantasy game for 9-cat, but also every other center is out right now. And then it's rare, by the way, that I'm lower on Jonathan Isaac than all of you guys yelling at me. But that's the way it was because I didn't believe that his body could handle it. He played 27 minutes in their last ball game, and I thought there's no way they're going to do it again. And they didn't. He played 15 in this one. So you can watch list Isaac. I don't think that he needed to be rostered. Wendell Carter Jr., watch list as well. I mean, even if it works, it's going to be kind of bleh for what, a week or two? Nah. So give me Cole Anthony, give me Paolo Banchero on this team right now, and basically everybody else's schedule play at best. Milwaukee, they've Dame is back to being Dame again. He's having a good season. Nobody's talking about Damian Lillard, but dude is number 9 per game this year. And it's exactly what we wanted. Because last year he shot, 42% from the field? And I said, look, that's the floor. If he shoots 42%, again, great. You drafted him early, mid-second round, and he'll be a late second rounder. But the upside is, what if his field goal percent goes up by 3%? Bingo, bango. You're back near the edge of the first round, and he's actually pushed a little bit in front of that because there's this pretty good-sized drop-off after the first 3 and then an even bigger drop-off after, like, the first 5. So bodies are moving around quite a bit in that kind of like 7 through 15 range, and Dame is rumbling. Brook Lopez, the blocks are back. That buy low is done. Bobby Portis had a slightly better ball game, so you could try to sell there. Chris Middleton, you're holding. This is why the Middleton thing this year, you knew it was going to be a massive headache, and the upside just isn't that great to deal with the headache. But if you're in it, now you got no choice. So onward and upward, or onward in some direction. Dallas lost on there's a weird goaltend at the end of this ball game. I don't really care. Daniel Gafford filling in for Dereck Lively went 12 out of 13 with 27 and 12 with 2 blocks. He's a monster when Dereck Lively's out. And this is your opportunity to try to sell again on Gafford. Get something, anything at all, before Lively comes back. Kyrie sat out the second half of this back-to-back, so it went back to one more game of sort of the goofer lineup for the Mavs, where Dinwiddie was better. Jaden Hardy happened to be one of the better plays in this one. Najee Marshall had 10 assists. That came out of nowhere. Quentin Grimes had 14 off the bench in only 18 minutes. Klay Thompson was not as good. Here's the thing. I've now moved to a new position on the Mavericks over the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 games, which is, I don't want to deal with these guys. It seemed like when both Luka and Kyrie were out, it was going to be pretty easy to say, okay, well, Clay's going to get a bunch of stuff, and then, Dinwiddie's going to get a bunch of stuff, and we'll piecemeal it together. But it's been a rotating cavalry of Clay, Spencer, Hardy, Najee Marshall, Quentin Grimes. It's 5 guys all trying to step up and do the job of 2, and that's not enough consistently for any of those 5 guys. So give me PJ Washington and give me Daniel Gafford right now. And when Kyrie comes back, give me Kyrie. And that is enough for yours truly. The Pelicans, this was the Zion rest game. So Yves Missy had 12 and 6 with a steal and a couple of blocks. And he's playable when Zion sits. When Zion's in, Missy might be trending towards a drop, which would make him sort of more of a classic injury replacement kind of guy. But I'm going to give him a little bit longer. I'm just going to let that dangle a tiny bit more. Trey Murphy's been a first rounder for a month, which is crazy. If you can get top 40 back for him, I would. If you can't, just ride it. Javonte Green at 13 and 7. He actually has a really good fantasy game, but he's never going to get enough minutes consistently to show it off. So we wait. And, when Zion's back around, then all this stuff the board gets reshuffled, and you pretty much just play the 4 main dudes when Zion's back, and that is excluding now Yves Missy in that department. Mark Williams had 31 and 13 with 3 steals and a block. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Mark Williams hath arrived. Here's the beauty of Mark Williams, too. He's number 72 on the year right now in 22 minutes a game. And now, admittedly, the production line tends to level off towards an asymptote. Like him going up another 4 or 5 minutes overall is not going to jump him into the top 30, but he looks good. Charlotte's easy, though. It's Mark Williams, Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller. Don't worry about anything else. Utah is in severe pre-tank mode right now. And we talked about this many times over the years, teams that tank earlier in the season so that they can actually just kind of play whoever down the stretch and see how it goes. And that's where Utah is right now. So Keontae George came back in this game, but then Colin Sexton got a day off. He was getting tired. I think Walker Kessler and Keontae George are the 2 guys the Jazz are going to kind of just play throughout because they're the young guys. Although Kessler, apparently, they're willing to trade. We'll see if that comes to fruition. I have no idea who's going to play in Utah's next game. I wish I did. I don't. Utah's next game is tomorrow, Friday. They're at the Pelicans. We just talked about a bunch a second ago. I would guess that Keontae is going to be in that game. I would assume that Walker Kessler is going to be in that game. I don't know about Sexton. I don't know about John Collins. I don't know about Lauri Markkanen. Pretty sure John Collins is out. And thusly, it creates a problem for us, which is it's hard to know who to pick up for the stream. If Sexton and Clarkson are both out again, I think you could probably roll Isaiah Collier out there. Even against the games cap, just get some assists, get some rebounds, probably not a ton of scoring. If all of the front guys are out, you could probably play Bryce Sensabaugh for really a scoring heavy kind of lineup. Maybe not against a games cap, but certainly head-to-head level. But the problem is that Utah has a stupid schedule coming up here. They play just 2 games over the next 6 days, so I don't think that I would venture down that path in head-to-head anyway. And because we don't know who's going to play, it's hard to pick up a streamer for Roto. But Collier would be the closest. Houston took care of a Jokic-less Nuggets team without a whole lot of fanfare. Cam Whitmore is on a little bit of a shooting heater his last couple of ball games. I don't think that I would risk it, though, because the minutes are not locked in. Jalen Green is on a month-long surge. If you can trade him for like a top 80, top 90 kind of guy, you definitely do it. Kind of quietly here, Freddie VanVleet has moved inside the top 50. Still shooting 38.8% from the field, but the free throw is inching up the board. The assists are over 6 now. There's just been this very slow, quiet, soft climb for Freddie. And now he's a 4th rounder. He's just inching his way up the board. Anyway, all I'm saying is it ain't over till it's over. Amen Thompson missed a bunch of free throws. That was the problem in this ball game, and that is going to be an issue for him from time to time. But, man, you'll take those 6 defensive stats. I still think if you can trade Thompson for a top 50 guy, you do it. Just cash in. Hedge. It's basically a hedge. Nuggets looked like a rudderless seafaring craft without Nikola Jokic. They've been able to sort of push their way past crapper teams without Jokic, but not against a good one. Christian Brown had a nice game, though, which is kind of surprising, even without Jokic. He's kind of come into his own. He's a hold. Westbrook's a hold. Obviously, Jamal Murray's a hold. Michael Porter Jr. was god-awful, but he's a hold. I'm not a big Aaron Gordon guy. He sat this game out anyway, and let's just hope that Jokic is back in short order. This is a nice win for the Warriors, who have looked really, really bad lately. And they went in and they beat the Wolves on the road. Warriors now a break-even 20-20 on the year. The Warriors are 10-10 at home. The Warriors are 10-10 on the road. The Warriors are 5-5 in their last 10. The Golden State coin flips, ladies and gentlemen. Got a good game out of Steph. Buddy Hield is your fill-in du jour right now. If any starter is out for the Warriors, play Buddy Hield because he's running warm. In this one, it was Draymond Green out. That helped Buddy Hield. Go figure. They just went smaller. Trace Jackson-Davis was the center for most of the game. Kevon Looney was the center for the rest of the game. And then they pretty much ran like an Andrew Wiggins size front court. They decided they would just create a little space. And it worked in this one. You know, shooting 49%, putting up a $116 on the Wolves is pretty good. Minnesota is a very unpredictable offensive team, but defensively, the Wolves have actually been pretty good. Kudos, Warriors. So I do very much like the Buddy Hield stream. I'm very much also holding Trace Jackson-Davis. I don't know why you'd do something differently off a 15-rebound, 2-block performance, but yeah, some folks get frustrated quick. You're also holding Andrew Wiggins, and then Dennis Schroeder, you got to let go. Dante DiVincenzo, monster game for Dante. He's just been coming on. He's up to number 146 on the season now. Over the last month, he's number 73. Great. Jaden McDaniels is in the midst of one of his little shooting heaters. You know it's going to wear off real soon. Enjoy it if you want to. You know me. I don't chase. I don't chase. He's still 110 over the last month. It always levels off. He's like the new Danny Green. But Danny always ended up higher because he hit more three-pointers. That was like the one big. But it wasn't so much the stats that I'm talking about. It's more of the... With Danny Green, if you paid attention to every single game he played, he'd be on and off of your roster literally every 4 days. And it's the same way with Jaden McDaniels. If you're paying attention to every game he plays, you'll add him for a game, you'll drop him for 3. You'll add him for a game, you'll drop him for 3. Best move with Jaden McDaniels, just make him a really good schedule play. He's a really good schedule play. If you have a particularly beat-up head-to-head team, he's been super healthy. They've got a back-to-back coming up tomorrow, Saturday. They're in an okay scheduling spot right now. Not great for next week, but overall, like this month is a pretty good scheduling month for them. That's fine. I would never use him against a games cap, though. You know who I would right now is Naz Reid. He's come on nicely, really over like the last 2 to 3 weeks. I'm trying to think of exactly when it turned for Naz. It's about 3 weeks ago, sitting just inside the top 100 over the last 3 weeks. Over the last 2 weeks, he's number 79. And it's nothing crazy. The minutes are still at 26, and there still has been no opening for him because the Minnesota front court continues to be the healthiest team in the history of basketball. Not one of these guys has missed a game yet. It's crazy. When they do, Naz can really start going. And in this one, you know, he took some minutes from Julius Randle again. He's taken some minutes from Rudy Gobert in the past. It's happening now. Minnesota's not just playing those guys because they have them. Oh, man. Can you imagine how nice it'll be if Gobert has to miss a week? Naz Reid will go crazy. But that's why you hold really all year for a guy who, because the injury replacement level value on him is so high, you almost can't risk someone else getting it. He's filler level, upper filler level, mind you, like Jaden McDaniels. When the team is healthy, the difference between Naz and McDaniels is when someone's out, Naz Reid does more. When someone's out, Jaden McDaniels does the exact same thing. I think I've made my point. Miami. Nikola Jovic continues his really good play lately. 12 points, 4 boards, 8 assists, and a block. I thought he was great in this game. Played 32 minutes off the bench. He was a +3 in a game the Heat lost by 9. Yeah, he belongs on rosters. He's taken that small step forward. I did get a lot of questions when I put that out on Twitter that I thought Jovic was a guy that definitely belongs on rosters. What do you do when Jimmy Butler comes back? Well, he probably... Okay, that's a loaded question. Do I even think Jimmy Butler is going to play again? I actually don't. But if the Heat hold him out at this point, they'll have to pay him. Because they can't, they did their first suspension. You can't just add unpaid leave without some sort of new reason. We know they're trying to trade him. We know it's 3 weeks to the trade deadline. The one thing that could really screw this up is if Jimmy Butler went out there and got hurt, and then the Heat couldn't trade him. So what might happen is Butler plays like 18, 19 minutes a game. Like those weird 2 games where he scored 9 points, and then it was like, yeah, I can't play here anymore. You might see that. You might see them just say, stay away from the team. We'll pay you to stay away. We saw that with Harden. Forget where that one was. Was that Philly or was that Brooklyn? I don't remember. I think that was Philly. So if that's the case, you probably hold Jovic through that. It won't be easy, though. His production will suffer even if Butler only plays like 20 minutes a game. But think of it this way. If Butler comes back, yeah, he takes some usage away, but Jovic is not a high usage guy anyway. He gets some assists, some rebounds, some scoring. He's just like a little bit of everything. Someone like an Alec Burks can very easily give up his 20 minutes. I truly don't know what's gotten into Tyler Hero this year. He may never miss a shot. By all statistical analysis, Tyler Hero should have slowed down by now. His effective field goal percent this year is at 59, which is 6 percentage points higher than any other season of his career. He's shooting 56% from 2. That's 6% higher than any other year. He's at 41% from 3 on the highest volume he's had in his career. He's way over all of his marks in every way. And he just keeps going. Is it time for us to just believe that he's this now? That he has the effective field goal percent of like a 7-footer that plays around the rim? I still can't believe it. But every week that passes, I have to believe it more and more. And he just keeps staying in the 30s. I would still sell Hero for a top 50 guy. But maybe he does do this all year. For the Lakers, got a good game out of Gabe Vincent. I don't care. Got a good game out of Rui Hachimura. I don't care. They're not going to do that often enough for it to be relevant. Obviously, Reeves, AD, LeBron, you guys don't need me to talk about them. Their starts every day. Max Christie is the guy I wanted to spend a second on the Lakers side because he's not a particularly high usage dude, but he is pretty consistently in all of the winning lineups for the Lakers these days. And I'm not just talking about the starting 5, because that's obviously helpful for him. I'm talking about whenever he's out there, the Lakers are better. He's the one guy on that team that can both space the floor. Actually, this is a 3-part thing. Space the floor, attack the rim a little bit, and defend. And I'm talking about literally everyone, including the superstars. Austin Reeves can space the floor and attack the rim. Can't really defend. Anthony Davis can attack the rim and defend. Doesn't really space the floor. LeBron doesn't really defend anymore. For stretches. for stretches. So LeBron can do all three for bursts because the dude is 40. So we got to cut him a little bit of slack. There's nobody else that can do all three. And admittedly, the other guys are better at those individual, triforce than Christie at any one of them. Reeves is obviously a better offensive player than Max Christie is. But Max is the guy that can do all three. And so this is not meant to turn into a Lakers segment on the show, only to mention I watched this team very closely. Christie's going to play a lot. And his game translates better to fantasy than, I'll admit, than I realized it did. When this season started, I had absolutely no faith at all that Max Christie could post fantasy numbers. But now, over the last month, he's sitting at number 88. His 51% from the field might not hold, but most of his looks are completely open threes and layups. In fact, I'd be very curious, and I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I'd be very curious to know how many shots Max Christie has taken in the last month that weren't threes or in the paint. He's basically like an analytics efficiency darling. Where the hell is his three-point percent? So he's only shooting 37% from downtown this year. But he's at 56% from two. Because, again, everything, he's going to the rim. He's not going to take a 16-footer. But he's a good foul shooter. And he's good defensively. And he gets steals and blocks because teams keep going at him, thinking that he's going to be a weak link. And he's not the weak link. They should be going at everybody else. And that's what's kind of interesting about Max. Over the last month, he's at 1.1 steals, 0.6 blocks, 51-84 splits, 14 points, 2.3 threes, almost no rebounds or assists. He reminds me, and I said this, I think, on a podcast yesterday or the day before, he reminds me a little bit of KCP when he actually took 10 shots a ball game. If Max Christie keeps getting 32 minutes, he's right around top 100, which, again, not exciting, but has a place on a lot of fantasy teams. Low turnover, 3-and-D guy. This last one was not a game. Brooklyn lost by 50, 60, almost 60. Nick Claxton was kind of the one regular who started this game, and then nobody really made it to the end. Tyrese Martin played 37 minutes for reasons I don't fully understand. He took a ton of shots and missed almost all of them. You should throw this game out. Because D'Lo was resting, and Cam Johnson was resting, and Ben Simmons was resting on a team that's already quite bad. But what would you take away from this game? Mine is that's a team that needs to lose. I don't even want to spend time on it. It's a total waste of our time. Kawhi Leonard looked very good. Got up to 24 minutes. That's a big deal. Clippers are on a back-to-back in Portland. Kawhi will definitely not play that one. Clippers have one back-to-back next week, and then there's some rescheduling that's going on that might add a couple. But for the most part, they're pretty light outside of that back-to-back early next week between now and the All-Star break. So it's a great time for Kawhi to pretty much play every ball game and just slowly ramp his way up. But guess what? I don't even need him to ramp his way up. 24 minutes of Kawhi is enough minutes of Kawhi. He is now officially a start for you games cappers, and he's obviously a start on the head-to-head side if you foolishly drafted him in head-to-head leagues. That's not something that we would have ever wanted. And my favorite part of this game, James Harden's efficiency. 1 turnover, 60% shooting. Because he's not going to have to do everything himself anymore. And I get it. You're like, Dan, Norman Powell's done a lot of stuff. He has, but Norman Powell does all that stuff because everyone is focused on Harden. Powell's a good basketball player, but you saw the games when Harden sat. Powell had very up and down games because teams were game planning for him specifically. He's good, but his consistent goodness, Norman Powell, was a byproduct of James Harden drawing defenses. So, Dan, why... Did I get that fly? I don't know. So, Dan, why is that not the case if Kawhi is back for Norman Powell? Well, at that point, the splitting of usage becomes too small a piece of the pie. Going from first fiddle to second fiddle, not that big of a deal. There's way more than enough shots for two guys to get a bunch. We've seen it many times over the years. When a team goes to a big three, someone gets the short straw. When there's two straws, they're both full-length straws. Lady and the Tramp style. It's one big piece of pasta, smooch in the middle, everybody's happy. When you get to three straws, there's two tall ones and a little one. I don't have a good metaphor for that, but you guys catch where I'm going. Powell's going to see a bit of a drop-off. So even if the efficiency stays great, he's just not going to be able to do as much every game. And this is a good example of that. Admittedly, a game that was over by halftime, but split skis. Watch out for the split skis. If you can get a top 50 guy for Norm, you do it. If someone's trying to give you like a top 90 guy, you don't do it. Just enjoy the fact that Kawhi's back and Harden is going to get way better looks because teams can't send three defenders at him anymore. I am interested in what this does to Zubac because a lot of his success is because it's all screen setting for Harden. On those stretches when Kawhi is running the offense, maybe they just try to stagger it and Zoo is out there more with Harden. We'll kind of have to see as Kawhi gets pushed up closer to a full complement of minutes. And there you go. Lots of really interesting, I don't want to say fill-in plays because that sort of diminishes how useful these guys are. But, the Buddy Hield stream, the Daniel Gafford stream, those are the Cole Anthony stream. Those are probably the biggest things on the board, along with Oubre and Yabusele. Some really, really, really good injury replacement plays. But in terms of the guys that may have a little bit of staying power, Max Christie, top 100 type, Nikola Jovic, maybe a little bit better than that, depending on the Jimmy Butler stuff. Keep, again, one eye on Wendell Carter Jr. to see what he can do while all of the other centers are out. And not all that super interested in Precious Achiuwa. And I'm also not that interested in dealing with whatever the hell the Mavs are doing when their guys are out. Please hit the subscribe button. I don't want to see that slow down at all. And please pre-like our trade deadline live show. What are we at right now? What's the running tally on that bad boy? 538. I want to get to 550 today. Can we get to 550 on Thursday? I'm trying to do 25 likes a day, and that would basically get us right to 1,000. So if we can do 25 a day, we can still hit our goal by trade deadline Thursday morning. Also, quick update. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific time, roughly, I will be hosting here on YouTube and on Twitter. I'm going to try to blast it out everywhere I can because there's no, a lot of times I don't do live shows on Twitter because Twitter gives the creator nothing other than maybe you get featured and collect a couple of new followers. That's nominal. Most of my live shows are on YouTube because YouTube pays with advertising and, new subscribers and everything sort of grows the snowball. For this thing tomorrow, I'm just going to blast that everywhere. I'm not worried about advertising dollars. I'm not worried about growing a page, whatever. That's not the point. Tomorrow, around 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, Friday, again, early afternoon for me. Do your adjustments. I don't know where you are. You're all across the globe. I'll be hosting a marathon. We'll go until the wheels come off. Palisades Elementary fundraiser. You've heard me talk about it on the show over the last week. Palisades Elementary School, Marquez also, and the Village School. Village School is a private one. The other two are public. My kid goes to a public school. Very proud to say that. As a product, by the way, of a private school, I can't afford that joint anymore. I don't know how my parents did, but we certainly cannot. Palisades Elementary burned down in the fires last week, along with Marquez Elementary. And so this fundraiser tomorrow is a Q&A. So if you're in the chat room and you want to throw a question out there, just throw a buck into the coffers. Throw a buck, throw 2, throw 5, throw 10, whatever you've got. Every penny we raise on this fundraiser tomorrow will go towards the general school fund for the Palisades fire recovery. I put the link on Twitter yesterday. It's a very easy link to find. It's the Palisades Charter Elementary Fire Recovery Fund. It's going to go towards rebuilding the school, making sure that the classrooms have things they need. This is all going to be a really long process, but again, every penny really does count as we try to start over. And it's a terrifying prospect too, because families are all over the map. They can't go back. Even the ones whose houses survived can't go back right now because the area is just like basically the aftermath of a war zone. There's no water, there's no power, there's contaminants everywhere. How many of these people are going to move back when they can? How many of these people are going to rebuild when they can? This is a community that needs to be rebuilt from the foundation all the way up. So again, that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. That's going to be a live show. At least 15 guest analysts have already said that they're in. More are popping up. I've reached out to pretty much everybody that we've had on this podcast, all my friends in the fantasy space. Extremely thankful to them. I hope you guys can join us, even if you don't have anything to donate financially to help spread the word to someone you know that might have something that they can donate. Again, that's tomorrow, Friday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, roughly Pacific time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Find me on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. This will be the only show today. Tomorrow, again, we'll be back with the big marathon show. That'll probably be a one-show day as well. But whatever, you'll see the stuff when you see it because you've already subscribed, right? Hold on.